Hello and welcome to another episode of TCR Express. I'm digital media editor Warren Frey, and with me I have once again
Staff writer at the Journal of Commerce, Russell Hixson.
1 week to go, 1 week until the election.
Yes. T-minus 1 week and counting.
It seems like it's gone on forever, but this is not the United States. It's only gone on for a month. So here we are.
Yeah, for those who don't know, I used to be a reporter in the United States at daily newspapers. And if you don't know, their election season starts as soon as the previous election is over, and it takes years.
It's not officially that, but it basically is that.
Oh, it's
whereas we just have a month, and then we complain about that. So
correct. Yes.
right.
So yeah, it's merciful that we only have a few weeks.
Indeed. At any rate, what have you been working on, political or otherwise?
Well, I've been working on two things. First, our Cracks in the Foundation series. The first part is out. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. It's on our site, the Journal of Commerce, and it's at the Daily Commercial News' site as well. It's a bunch of stories that kind of talks about the rise of substance use, mental health, and other issues that are taking their toll on a lot of construction workers and people in the sector. And I did a really interesting interview for the second part that's going to be coming out soon with someone who gave their personal experience, their story about struggling with alcohol and other substances throughout their life and what it was like working in construction and the trades. So yeah, I'm going to have a firsthand account of someone and they're going to give their thoughts on kind of the culture, what it was like to get help, what it was like to get, to stop using substances and some of the pressures and different things that were going through their mind. And I think it's going to be really interesting.
Okay, great. And what you said, there's two things. What's the other one?
Yeah, and then later this week, I'm going to be talking to a company called Skill Signal, and they're in the New Jersey, New York area. And they have some apps and software that help stop harassment. So they're going to talk about an incident where a woman was harassed on a job site, and the investigation, rather than taking days and all this time and effort, they were able to instantly know who was around, what they were doing, because they have apps and software that track and manage who's on the site and what they're doing. And so they were able to immediately figure out who the person was and deal with it. And so I'm going to talk to them about how applications and different things like that can help stop harassment.
Okay, great. And in the East, Daily Commercial News staff writer Angela Gismondi is following up on a story she wrote last week on the untimely death of Samuel Boakye, a 30-year-old father of two young children who was shot and killed September 7th. Boakye was well known in the construction community, and he was a carpenter with Local 27, a co-founder of two construction businesses which helped underrepresented groups secure employment in the trades, and a mentor with the Next Gen Builders program, and an advocate for community benefits and the labor movement. Angela is speaking to Boakye's business partner and Chris Campbell, the head of diversity and inclusion for the Carpenters Union. She also attended a Fit for Duty webinar hosted by the Ontario General Contractors Association, and she'll be reporting on that. And Daily Commercial News staff writer Don Wall is looking into recent developments in the Ontario construction sector on mandatory vaccine requirements. Canada's largest general contractors, EllisDon and PCL Construction, have announced they are implementing vaccine verification requirements at their workplaces. The firms will require Canadian employees working at any location on company business to be fully vaccinated against COVID-19 by November 1st. Meanwhile, 8 major contractor associations in Ontario's construction industry have launched a COVID-19 vaccination survey to find out how many workplaces have a vaccination policy in place and gather data on what percentage of workers are fully vaccinated. Keep watching our website as these related stories develop. And our continuing Quick Hit series, where we have speakers from the Canada Forecasting Conference coming up on September 8th to 29th. This week we have Abacus Data CEO David Coletto, and you can hear what he's going to talk about at the conference right now.
My name is David Coletto. I am the Chief Executive at market research firm Abacus Data.
And you're going to be speaking at Canada, the upcoming Canada conference. Maybe you could tell us a little bit what your talk's going to be about.
Well, it's really about trying to understand and anticipate how the pandemic is really going to change so much of our world. I've been doing a ton of research in Canada over the last 18 months, looking at how people's behaviors, their priorities, their aspirations have shifted as a result of the way our whole lives have changed because of the pandemic. And so what I'm going to do is sort of part reflect on the past 18 months, but mostly reflect on the future and what it means for, and how the pandemic has changed things like how and where we work, how we shop and get things that we need, where we live, and our, changing preferences and priorities for, the type of community we live in, what we need in that community, the type of space we need, and what that might all mean for infrastructure needs, public policy questions, and the like. Ultimately, I believe this pandemic has accelerated many of the trends that we were seeing before the pandemic started, and trying to use data by asking people questions across the country to gain some insight into where the country might be going and where the world's going. And I think to give those who will be attending the conference perhaps I hope a better sense of what it will all mean, and whatever, and I hate this term, but I'm going to use it, whatever that new normal will look like finally when this pandemic is over.
And so, not to go too deep into this, because you've got a whole talk to do in a couple weeks' time, but what are some of these major trends that were already happening by the time the pandemic came around?
Well, I think there's a few. I think we saw the clear shift to a more touchless digital society. We were spending far more time on digital devices, interacting with our workplace, our friends, our family, brands and companies that we use. A lot of that already was happening through a screen. And obviously the pandemic forced us to do far more of that during the pandemic. I think that's likely going to continue after, and as I said, accelerated those trends. And similarly, we knew from research we had done and seeing some trends in the workplace that expectations around flexibility, around how and where we work, were already creating friction on teams and in workplaces. That pandemic basically, light speeded that ahead. And so coming out of this pandemic, especially in office-based workspaces, I think there will be a new expectation for what's possible. And the excuses that perhaps were used in the past won't be as relevant and accepted. And so, those are just two examples, I think, of those trends and that we were seeing before, that there's no doubt in my mind the pandemic put afterburners on and moved them years ahead of where they would be if there was no pandemic at all.
And you mentioned infrastructure. What are some of the changes? Because a lot of us aren't working downtown, and there's a lot of infrastructure concentrated in a lot of downtowns. Is that going to spread out, or how is it going to change? I guess is my question.
Well, yeah, I think we're still speculating, but if even 20 or 30% of the workforce is no longer coming into major urban centers, think Toronto, Ottawa, Vancouver, Montreal, how does the structures change? How does the need for public transit and roads change, right? There's no doubt that we've seen a small exodus. I'm not saying it's large scale, move to smaller communities, more suburban communities, as people seek more space because they're spending more time at home. How do those needs react? So that's just one example. Similarly, if we are relying less, again, this was a trend we were seeing before, but it sort of accelerated, less and less on bricks and mortar retail, bricks and mortar entertainment, then what do we do with those spaces? And how do we build the infrastructure to deal with the logistics challenge that will come when more people are going to buy the things they need online and get them delivered directly to their home? So these are all, I think, problems and questions people were anticipating, but I'm going to try to put a little bit of a spotlight on it and help explain in terms of where the public is thinking and how they might be reacting to all those kinds of things in the future.
Hey, and if you'd like to hear more what David has to say, he will be speaking at 11:20 a.m. on Wednesday, September 29th at the Canada Virtual Conference. Thanks. You can listen to TCR Express and the Friday Construction Record podcast on Amazon Music, Spotify, and Apple Music, and on the Daily Commercial News and Journal of Commerce websites. Thanks for listening, everybody.